Thank you for joining us for this second session of The World's Evil Legacy, the Antichrist, written by Pastor Robert E. Newton many years ago. He was my pastor, as I've already stated in the first session. So we'll pick up with chapter 3 and do chapter 3 and chapter 4 in this session. Chapter 3, coming events cast their shadow before him. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 8. And then shall the wicked be revealed, whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming. When a nation or people lose their sense of moral values, when there are no spiritual and moral absolutes, when a host of people argue, who can say whether a thing is right or wrong? We have turned to the sophist's philosophy, which declares that something is wrong only if we believe it is wrong. If this kind of mentality rules us, our day is lost and everything is gone. We then have dropped to a level of animalism. Consider this generation, Proverbs chapter 30, verses 11 through 14. There is a generation that curseth their father and does not bless their mother. There is a generation that are pure in their own eyes, and yet not washed from their filthiness. There is a generation, oh how lofty are their eyes, and their eyelids are lifted up. There is a generation whose teeth are as swords, and their jaw teeth as knives, to devour the poor from off the earth, and the needy from among men. I ask you, does this sound like a terminal generation? And does this not sound like our generation? And God spared not the old world, but saved Noah, the eighth person, a preacher of righteousness, bringing in the flood upon the world of the ungodly, and turning the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah into ashes, condemned them with an overthrow, making them an ensample unto those that after should live ungodly, and delivered just Lot, vexed with the filthy conversation of the wicked. That scripture is found in 2 Peter chapter 2, verses 5 through 7. And then Luke records in his 17th chapter, verses 28 and 30, likewise also as it was in the days of Lot. They did eat, they drank, they bought, they sold, they planted, they builded. Even thus shall it be in the day when the Son of Man is revealed. How is it that nothing is obscene anymore? Our speech is no longer to be spoken from the point of intelligence. Moronic people fill the airwaves with conversation that issues from a cesspool of iniquity. Speech degradation is at an all-time high. Dirty, foul, disrespectful, four-lettered words are the theme of the day. Has decency taken wings and flown away? It seems so. Why has sex catapulted to such a demanding level? It is now saleable. the more explicit, the more it gains in ratings. Sex, as we know it now, and as we are exposed to it, is without question a satanic attack on the sanctity of love and marriage. Remember, it is in marriage that man and woman become partners with God in the creation of humankind. What better place for a planned attack by the devil than at the beginning of life? What of this abortion thing? I'll tell you what it is. It is a reversing of the order of a contained and blessed love union that provides for a beautiful family life throughout the earth to a sex factory that wants sex without responsibility. This action then moves on to the point of murdering babies by the millions. We would be fair enough to allow for certain conditions, such as the life-threatening danger of the mother in labor, rape, incest. These must be carefully scrutinized and latitude given. However, the will to yield to every lustful passion and carrying out that passion at all costs is deadly. It will eventually bring down the wrath of God. Man, in this hour, is making his big play, doing the opposite of God's will. And the movie industry really doesn't get it. Homosexuality is an attempt to overthrow the creative genius of God. If homosexuals had their way, creation as we know it would be over forever. Continuing life in the world would cease. Homosexuality is not, as Satan puts it, another alternate lifestyle. It is an affront to God. It is a sickening evil without parallel. It is defying all the creative design of God Almighty. It is a biological impossibility. It is a reproach and insult to all decent thinking people. Romans chapter 1 is warning enough. Go ahead, read it. This God of sex, whether it be abortion, lesbianism, homosexuality, or extramarital affairs, has God furbishing his sword in heaven and is ready to fall. Is God speaking for the last time to us in this onslaught of AIDS? Knowing the facts of this deadly virus, lovers still love till the end. Is lesbian sexuality attempting to destroy the God-ordained family life? Why are all of these so bold in their actions and manner of life? They boast of recruiting young men and children to their ranks. Why do we turn away from the decent demands of the average soldier? Why do we pamper the homosexual to a point of giving them special rights in the army and now in the marketplaces of the world? What has happened to us? Sodom was burned to the ground and turned to ashes for less than this. We are blinded by our times. Explicit bedroom scenes contaminate the innocence of our children right in our own very homes. and any attempt to censor it is met with riotous anger. Now the pedophile is crying loudly of his sexual rights with children. If the rule is, who can say what is wrong, where will such sin end? Will crime forever be ignored? Divorce is at a rampant high. Marriages of convenience are now commanding our attention. In this sex-saturated and sex-oriented society, Satan is attempting to reverse the divine order of creation. Violence. How do men develop a bloodthirsty desire to kill and to destroy? I do not know. Blood and guts and weaponry that literally blow people to pieces seems to be the theme of the day. Schools are now unsafe for students and teachers who have to mix with gangs of gun-toting ruffians. Washington, D.C., one of the great capitals of the world, a place of lawmaking, is known to be one of the most crime-ridden cities of the world. How about mistrust of leaders? We see the rich, learned senators, congressmen, and worldwide leaders without moral compunction. While in a national economic depression, they increase their salaries out of proportion to their constituents. Opportunism and greed become the motivating force of their lives. Heads of governments are elected and installed into office with a lurid and shady past. They promote and put in office lesbians, homosexuals, dishonest people who are supposed to lead us in a quiet and peaceful life. Habakkuk chapter 1, verse 4. Therefore the law slacked, and judgment does never go forth. For the wicked does compass about the righteous, therefore wrong judgment proceeds. The rappers, black and white, are so corrupt that their lyrics pour out filth of an indescribable kind. They see their womenfolk as just so much chattel, and their possession for their evil lust. This degrading of our female population is without parallel. This is the groundwork of the coming dragon. This is the environment in which he will attempt to turn away all men from God. This appears to be the early pains of a coming death. This is the tribulation blowing some of its foul winds upon us. This is the setting for the final Armageddon. This iniquity and this arrogance against God are setting the stage for the blowing of the trumpets of wrath and the vials of doom across the world. The sea will eventually turn to blood as we continue to ignore the pleading of God Almighty. We are headed for the world's worst nightmare by our continual rebellion. Where does all of this come from, if not from him called the Antichrist? He will soon occupy the throne of Jerusalem and there declare himself to be God. All the thanklessness of our present hour is leading us to worldwide starvation and to the emerging of the apocalypse. We will not always be able to sing from sea to shining sea, or see purple mountains' majesty waving fields of grain blowing in the wind. God will not forever shed his grace on us. Where are we going and why? The dragon and the Antichrist are in our world, waiting to be revealed. As a result, we see night lengthening, its shadows bringing eternal despair upon mankind. 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 7. For they that sleep, sleep in the night, and they that are drunken in the night. We are a sleepy, drunk, and lost generation without a clue as to where we are in time. Chapter 4, a profile of the Antichrist. Daniel chapter 7, verse 8. I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another little horn, before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots, and behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of a man, and a mouth speaking great things. While the Bible speaks of the final personification of evil, it gives a dual message, and it is this: God sees sin and deception and arrogance and pride as a monstrous characteristic in men, not animals. Revelation chapter 13, verse 2. And the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. God is not going to send through the earth a massive bear, a roaring lion, a fierce leopard, but a man who embodies all of these animalistic features. Man, unborn of God, eventually is left with a hideous, beastly nature. While a bear, a lion, a leopard would be extremely limited in their goings, a super intelligent man inheriting these characteristics could smite the earth with a curse. That wicked one, a description of 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 8. And then shall that wicked be revealed, whom the Lord shall consume with the spirit of his mouth, and shall destroy with the brightness of his coming. The New World Order is put in place. Networks to bring about a global Marxist paradise. Daniel chapter 7, verse 8. And behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of a man. Now this speaks of enlightenment and intelligence, of new covenant, a new politics of meanings, redefines what it means to be a human being. Daniel chapter 8, verse 23. Understanding dark sentences, diabolical, intriguing, and blasphemous, a shrew using thought control to create a slave state, doublespeak, and a new speak, a fierce countenance, stern, a hater of humanity, a psychopath, a seething dynamo of energy, a dark, brooding, evil force. Daniel 7:20, whose look was more stout than his fellows. This speaks of good looks, handsome, mysterious, charismatic, handles the media well, a top public relations man. Daniel 8:24, he shall destroy wonderfully. Speaks of practicing intrigue, of destroying all cherished traditions, police powers and apparatus of government will ensure compliance. Resistance by the masses ruthlessly crushed. He shall prosper and practice a great centrally planned economy. Private enterprise and initiative are to be thwarted. He gains financial control of the world by destruction of the economy. Daniel 8:25. He shall come up with a policy stronger, different, and satanic. It creates a politically correct universe. It numbers individuals from birth to death and suppresses free speech. Daniel 8:25, he shall cause craft to prosper. Now this has a dual meaning. Economy and cultism will flourish. He brings all to a higher consciousness, proclaims the rainbow earth religion. He shall magnify himself in his heart to follow through on the dragon's suggestion that he is God. He's an atheist. He shall by peace destroy many. Deceitful, using restructuring, a warlord, using ethnic cleansing, making a politically correct universe. Daniel 7:20, a mouth that speaks great things. Oratorical, persuasive, and has overpowering speech, reversal of reality, environmental scam, use of science and the global warming. He has an arrogance that blinds. Daniel 7:25. He shall wear out the saints of the Most High. He is fierce against God. Persecution of those that won't bow to his commands. Accusing saints of hate crimes. Awesome Gestapo power. Zechariah chapter 13, verse 8. He will destroy 2/3 of the Jewish people. And he seeks to destroy the remnant until they flee from his presence into the wilderness. There will be global tyranny. Daniel 7:25. He shall think to change times and laws. He will seek to reinvent the world. The government control of guns. Affirmative action. He shall rule over the Jews during the last half of the tribulation. The ultimate object is control. Control translates into power. Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 4. His soul shall be lifted up. Absolutism is declared a heresy. He alone has the answer to every question. Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 5. He will transgress by wine. He is a wine drinker and a human terror with absolute totalitarian control. The next verse, verse 6. Neither stays at home nor is interested in establishing home as such. He seeks to decimate the traditional family. Children shall rule over their elders under children's rights. Habakkuk 2:5. He gathered all people unto him. A tyrant of great proportion. Implement control over all the masses who are taught to revile nationalism and patriotism and family. Verse 8. Commits great violence against the land, city, and all that dwell therein. He is a murderer. He is the lawless one, controls world police force, employs ecological idiocy to grab people's land and property, and commits terrorist acts against horrified victims. Daniel chapter 11, verse 37. Neither shall he regard the God of his fathers, nor the desire of women. Homosexuality is to be the norm, and the lesbian and gay lifestyle the preferred choice of the youth. Abortion and infanticide encouraged. Euthanasia shall be ordered for the elderly to assist them in their transformation into spirit. Habakkuk 2:9, he is an evil, covetous man, a globalist. Habakkuk 2:18, he causes a graven image to be made unto himself. In Revelation 13 and 14, this is the image of the beast. Daniel 9:26, he confirms a Jewish covenant for 1 week or 7 years. And this begins the tribulation period. Isaiah chapter 16, verse 4, he is called a spoiler and extortioner. He designs a multicultural transformation. Isaiah 24:16, he is called a treacherous dealer. Deceit is too mild a word to use here. And Isaiah 10:32, he remains at a little place called Nob and shakes his fist at Mount Zion on his way to Armageddon. And this is his welcomed downfall. The dragon that gives the beast his power is seen in history as passing through Tyrus. Ezekiel chapter 28, verses 12 through 18 says this, Son of man, take up a lamentation upon the king of Tyrus, and say unto him, Thus saith the Lord God, Thou sealest up the sum, full of wisdom and perfect in beauty. Thou hast been in Eden, the garden of God. Every precious stone was thy covering, the sardius, the topaz, the diamond, the beryl, the onyx, the jasper, the sapphire, the emerald, the carbuncle, and gold. The workmanship of thy tabrets and thy pipes was prepared in thee the day that thou wast created. Thou art the anointed cherub that covereth. And I have set thee so. Thou wast upon the holy mountain of God. Thou hast walked up and down in the midst of the stones of fire. Thou wast perfect in thy ways from the day thou wast created till iniquity was found in thee. By the multitude of thy merchandise have they filled the midst of thee with violence, and thou hast sinned. Therefore I will cast thee as profane out of the mountain of God, and I will destroy thee, O covering cherub, from the midst of the stones of fire. Thine heart was lifted up because of thy beauty. Thou hast corrupted thy wisdom by reason of thy brightness. I will cast thee to the ground. I will lay thee before kings that they may behold thee. Thou hast defied and defiled thy sanctuaries by the multitude of thine iniquities, by the iniquity of thy traffic. Therefore will I bring forth a fire from the midst of thee. It shall devour thee, and I will bring thee to ashes upon the earth in the sight of all of them that behold thee. What country does Antichrist come from? He will come out of the Grecian kingdom via Syria, which was the final victor over Egypt in the long war of Daniel chapter 11. Alexander the Great divided his kingdom into 4 parts. He then appointed generals to fill the 4 kingdoms: Egypt, Syria, Thrace, and Macedonia. Syria finally won out over Egypt. Consider Daniel chapter 8, verses 8 through 12. Therefore the he-goat, this was Alexander, waxed very great. And when he was strong, the great horn was broken. And for it came up 4 notable ones toward the 4 winds of heaven. And out of one of them came forth a little horn, and waxed exceeding great toward the south, and toward the east, and toward the pleasant land. And it waxed great even to the host of heaven. And it cast down some of the host and the stars to the ground, and stamped upon them. Yea, he magnified himself even to the prince of the host. And by him the daily sacrifice was taken away, and the place of his sanctuary was cast down. And an host was given him against the daily sacrifice by reason of transgression. And it cast down the truth to the ground, and it practiced and prospered. We know that at that time, Antiochus Epiphanes proved to be a sure type of the Antichrist, but not Antichrist himself. Antichrist is to be slain in the end by Christ himself. This did not happen to Antiochus Epiphanes. In Daniel 8:19, an angel, by way of explaining the vision, says this: Behold, I shall make thee known what shall be in the last end of the indignation, for at the time of the appointed the end shall be. Antiochus is long gone, and the Antichrist is yet to appear. Daniel 8:20 says, The ram which thou sawest having 2 horns are the kings of Media and Persia. And Daniel 8:21 says, And the rough goat is the king of Grecia. This was Alexander. And the great horn that is between his eyes is the first king. Daniel 8:22 says, Now that being broken, whereas 4 stood up for it, 4 kingdoms shall stand up out of the nation, but not in his power. Daniel 8:23 states that, And in the latter time of their kingdom, when the transgressors are come to the full, a king of fierce countenance and understanding dark sentences shall stand up. In Daniel 8:24 it states, And his power shall be mighty, but not by his own power. And he shall destroy wonderfully, and shall prosper and practice, and shall destroy the mighty people and the holy people. We know that the final victor in the 11th chapter of Daniel was Syria over Egypt. Antiochus Epiphanes fulfilled Daniel 11:29 through 35. He placed a sow upon the altar, desecrating the temple of the Jews. He died a natural death in Tabu in BC 165. Antiochus Epiphanes came from Syria and is a type of the Antichrist. The Antichrist will also come from Syria, which includes Assyria. The Antichrist is called the Assyrian in Isaiah 10:5. O Assyrian, the rod of my anger. In the same chapter, there is proof that this text is involved with end times, as proven in the 12th verse. Wherefore it shall come to pass that when the Lord hath performed his whole work upon Mount Zion and on Jerusalem, I will punish the fruit of the stout heart of the king of Assyria, and the glory of his high looks. Again in Isaiah chapter 14, verse 25, I will break the Assyrian, this is the Antichrist, in my land, which is Palestine, and upon my mountains tread him under foot, and then shall his yoke depart from off them, and his burden depart from off their shoulders. It is also found in Daniel 11:35 and 36, these words, and some of them of understanding shall fall, to try them, and to purge and to make them white, even to the time of the end, because it is yet for a time appointed. And the king shall do according to his will, and he shall exalt himself and magnify himself above every god, and shall speak marvelous things against the God of gods, and shall prosper till the indignation be accomplished, for that which is determined shall be done. Between verses 35 and 36 in Daniel chapter 11, we leap from the time of Antiochus, who is a type of the Antichrist, unto the end times proven by the very last part of verse 35. The righteous Jews were persecuted under Antiochus. So likewise the end, the time of Jacob's trouble, we call it, they will be persecuted by the Antichrist. The king shall do according to his will. This is the same little horn that comes out of the fourth horn of the he-goat of Daniel chapter 8, namely Syria, and is found as the wounded head in Revelation chapter 13, verse 1. All are Antichrist. The Grecian kingdom was divided into 4 kingdoms, and the victor in a long succession of battles was Syria. According to these 2 verses, that in the latter times of their kingdoms, Syria being victor in the past, it would seem reasonable that Syria taken into the revised Roman Empire will produce the Antichrist. So will he come from the past or the future? This is easily settled by Revelation chapter 17, verses 9 through 11. It's a matter of simple deduction. Here is the mind which has wisdom. The 7 heads are the 7 mountains on which the woman sits. These are kingdoms. These are not the hills of Rome. Rome is the mother of religious deception of the past. The Antichrist is the consummate political wickedness of the past. And there are 7 kings. 5 are fallen. We do not know for sure because the Bible does not tell us who these kings are, but perhaps it could be Nebuchadnezzar, Belshazzar, Antiochus Epiphanes, Darius, Alexander, Domitian, the Roman emperor at the time of John. 5 are fallen, 1 is Domitian, and the other is not yet come. For there is almost 18 or 1900 years between Domitian and the coming Antichrist. When Antichrist comes, he continues a short space. The first part, or 3.5 years of the tribulation. He constitutes the seventh king, reigning the first part of the tribulation. The beast, the Antichrist, that was the seventh king, the first 3.5 years, is not, because he is assassinated in the middle of the week. He is revived from the dead to finish his last 3.5 years of tribulation reign. He is the eighth, and he is of the seventh, and goeth into perdition when Christ destroys him and the false prophet, and casts them into perdition, or the lake of fire, at the close of the tribulation period. He will not be a Nero or Diocletian or any Roman Caesar, for he is not of the past. He only bears the evil characteristics of the past. He will be born out of the sea of humanity in our time. He will then compose a seventh king, not the third or fourth of any past time. He will die in the future, in the middle of the week. He will come out of perdition and constitute the eighth king, reigning in the time of Jacob's trouble, or the last 3.5 years of the tribulation period. The world would not wonder nearly as much after one living in the ancient past being revived as they would someone living before their very eyes, dying, and be revived by another one called the false prophet, which will also be of our times. That is the conclusion of chapters 3 and 4. And we will begin with chapter 5 in our next session. Thank you for joining us. Please leave your comments or subscribe to this channel. We would greatly appreciate it. God bless.